It is about to be gift giving season again. Time flies. I feel like Christmas last year just happened. Here we are already thinking about gifts for the hunters in our family again. I'm very fortunate in that my line of work, I get to both photograph and test a ton of different new gear from some really cool companies. PEAX equipment is one of them. And in this video, I'm just gonna cover some of my favorite PEAX items. Also, all of these items, if you use discount code DRAKE, D-R-A-K-E, that will save you 10% and make the holiday spend just a little less for you. First item that I'm wearing, literally on my head, my favorite headlamp of all time. This is called the PEAX Backcountry Duo. They've got two versions. This one on my head here, it's got a black strap, but it has got a black and a white light. And then this one has got a green strap, and it has got a green and a white light. Both headlamps, 1000 lumens on the bright end. They've got a high, medium, and low setting. Obviously, you can switch between either white and red on this one or white and green on the green one. A couple of my favorite features. Right now, this headlamp is technically upside down. Here it is right side up. But if it's upside down, the housing still rotates a full 180 degrees. If you put your headlamp on upside down, you can still shine it straight down at your feet. It's one of my biggest pet peeves with headlamps is when they only rotate one direction. If you put them on upside down, which happens a lot, you're either pointing forward or up. You still can't point down, so you have to take your headlamp off and point it down. This headlamp does pop out, and it is USB-C rechargeable, so you can unscrew this guy. There's a USB-C port right there. It runs off an 18650 battery, one of these big dogs. These guys, they just have a ton of capacity. They're rechargeable, which is super handy. Produces like a pretty insane beam of light. This specific headlamp, I've used this guy on so many late season hunts, like winter goat hunts in February, where you've got like 14 hours of darkness every night. And I've never had to recharge in 10 days. I always do bring a spare battery just in case, because one is none, two is one. This headlamp just has one button on the side. Turn it on. We're just gonna tap it once and turns on, and click it again, turns off. Now if we wanna rotate through the modes, I'm just gonna turn it on, and then I'm just gonna keep tapping, and it's gonna rotate through the modes. Now if I wanna, like, say, I wanna leave it on this red mode, but then I wanna turn it off, tap it again, turn it off. Now when I turn it back on, it's going to be on that red mode again. You're not going to have to rotate through all the settings or the light settings to get back to that mode. Two features within this headlamp that aren't talked about enough. First off is a lock feature. With the headlamp off, like say you've got it in your backpack and you just don't want it to turn on accidentally. Like a lot of the old headlamps used to have a physical switch on them, which is very handy. I appreciated that. This one, the way you lock it and prevent it from accidentally turning on in your backpack is you're going to hold this button in on the side with the light off. You're going to hold it in for 4 seconds. So click it, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to double flash, and now it's locked. So now when I press the button, like, it's not going to turn on. And then to unlock it, same deal. I'm just going to hold it in for 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds until it double flashes, and now she turns back on. The next really cool feature that nobody really ever talks about at all, so with the headlight on, if you triple tap, so if you go click, 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 now it's going to rotate through 8 different light settings, and it's like that light setting right there is the lowest light setting. I think it's like 25 lumens or something. And so if you're just around camp and you just want to have like the lowest light output possible, but you still want to see enough, triple tap this guy, it'll run through the 8 settings. And then when you're on whichever setting you want, you just press it once and it'll stay on that setting. A couple very handy features within the PEAX Backcountry Duo. Actually, recently we were coming off the mountain on a mountain goat hunt. We were coming off with the goat and coming through this big cliffy section. And at 2 points, we actually got cliffed out. And it was super nice to have a really bright headlamp. On the high mode, I'm at 1000 lumens, and I could scan everything, and I could get a really good read on the mountain. I'd be like, ooh, there's a cliff there, there's a cliff there. Ooh, I think we can navigate down here. If I had any lesser of a headlamp, probably wouldn't have worked. PEAX Backcountry Duo headlamps. The next PEAX item, this is my shelter in the early season, and also when it's windy and rainy. This thing only weighs 17 ounces. It fits perfectly in the 5-liter dry bag stuff sack from PEAX. PEAX actually makes a whole variety and different sizes and types of stuff sacks and organizational bags, so you can check those out. But inside this guy, we've got the PEAX Solitude tarp. This is an 8.5 by 10 foot tarp. It comes with 4 guy lines already attached, and the guy lines have loops on them, which makes setup even easier. This tarp only weighs 17 ounces. And in the early season, especially like when the weather's pretty mild, there's no bugs and I want to go ultralight, this tarp is coming with. I can set it up in 100 different ways. Kind of my primary way that I set the tarp up for sleeping under is a lean-to. If the weather gets pretty gnar, I will do like an A-frame, which is just like literally just kind of an A. But again, only weighs 17 ounces. You can pitch it 100 different ways. And if the weather does come in and say you're on like an early season sheep hunt up in Canada, I always bring a tarp. A lot of times there's no trees, there's nowhere to hide up there. Here comes just this giant rain squall and it's like, well, it's probably gonna last an hour. So instead of putting all your rain gear on and just like getting everything wet, we'll just throw out a tarp really quick, prop it up with a couple trekking poles and anchor it down with a few rocks, hang out under the tarp, and the weather clears and we just keep on hunting. Tarps are a very useful and beneficial tool, and at 17 ounces, there's very minimal weight consequence in your backpack. I think this would make a pretty epic gift idea. Next item. So I'm only 36 years old, but still having an extra point of contact with the ground when I'm hiking up steep mountains or down mountains, or even having 2 points of contact, extra points of contact with the ground is super handy. And it's just like, it just takes the wear and tear off your knees. And I think you can go further and farther. As a result, I love bringing trekking poles. I always bring one trekking pole, but I will often, especially in the last year, I'll start bringing 2 trekking poles, just because it just makes like moving in the mountains just so much easier. This trekking pole, this is the PEAX Backcountry Elite trekking pole. It's a lever lock trekking pole. The bottom section here, which gets all the wear and tear, or most of the wear and tear anyway, is aluminum. And then these top 2 sections are carbon fiber to keep the weight down. This one has got an extended foam grip. So it's just like, you know, when you're side hilling and stuff, you often drop your hand down. And so it's really nice to have just an extra piece of grip there. You can get it in either a cork or a foam handle. For me personally, foam just doesn't feel as good in the hand as cork does. It's just totally personal preference, but that's my personal preference. In addition to being, you know, an extra point of contact with the ground and providing support, when you pair this with the tarp or PEAX's other new product, the 1P, you actually pitch it with 2 trekking poles. So your trekking poles can become part of your shelter pretty easy in that way. I do always wrap either some duct tape or Gorilla Tape on the trekking pole. There really isn't a function of it on the pole itself, but the function is if I ever need tape to fix, you know, a hole in my puffy or like repair something, it's just like, oh, I always know there's a chunk of tape or 2 on my trekking pole. And the next gear item I'll talk about, and this would really make a pretty amazing gift for the hunter in your family if they're doing a lot of late season stuff, or even like early season like shed hunting when if it's still cold and kind of snowy. This will be a combo. So this is the PEAX Solitude 4 teepee. It's a teepee tent. Use the poles for it. But the combo is to pair this with their Torrid stove. In total, you're looking at about 7 pounds for a teepee stove combo. Couple things I really dig about the stove. I can set it up, both the stove box and the pipe, like total in like, I don't know, less than 5 minutes. There's no loose parts, there's no wing nuts you gotta worry about. Goes together so easy. I've used a lot of stoves in the past from other brands, and once you get them together and once you get them set up, like they're great. But some of them take like 45 minutes to set up, and usually the time of year when you're using a hot tent, you know, teepee stove combo, it's really cold and time is of the essence and you're probably losing dexterity in your fingers. So like dealing with all these little wing nuts and loose parts really sucks. I'm very excited about this PEAX Torrid stove and how easy it is, and also how much heat it produces. It's got a bit of a taper to it, so the back end is actually tapered a little bit, and for whatever reason that creates a lot more draft. And so it really pulls oxygen in, and just you can burn so much more wood in this guy, and it burns so much hotter than a lot of the other stoves that I've tried. The result is more heat and you don't get smoked out as much. Probably the coldest temps I've ever used it in. My wife and I did a late season mule deer hunt a couple years ago. We wouldn't have been able to stay in the backcountry if we didn't have this set up. I bet it got down to negative 25 Fahrenheit that night. It was windy. I mean, inside the tent, it was like 65. We were like taking all of our layers off because we were just dying of heat. As a result, you know, we got to be in there in an amazing time when all the critters were out. Nobody else was in there. We saw so many animals. Being able to stay comfortable in the backcountry, being able to stay warm, have a safe space you can go back to and kind of recharge is everything, and just creates more opportunities for you. One item that I really think pairs really, really well anytime you're bringing a stove. PEAX doesn't sell this. This is called the Silky Gomboy. It is a ridiculously sharp little hand saw. This saw, this Japanese hardened steel blades, and it's curved and it only cuts on the pole. This thing is wicked sharp, allows me to cut rounds or the wood stove really, really easy. Silky saws, they do make a couple other versions of this. This handle and this curvature and this length, I think it's a 240 millimeter length. Pretty wicked saw for the backcountry. PEAX does make a bunch of other really cool products. These are just a handful of things that I really love, but they've got, I'm looking at one right now, a rifle cover. They've got a really sweet glassing like butt pad, a 6-man teepee, also with like an XL wood stove, because that 6-man is just quite a bit bigger, so you want a bigger stove to pair with it. They've got a bunch of swag. Again, if you want to try out any of those items, discount code DRAKE, D-R-A-K-E, will save you 10%.